morning. Welcome to Dahoy number 7. Contemplating no. A monk asked Jiao Jiao, "Does a dog have Buddha nature or not?" Jiao Jiao said, "No." This one word "no" is a knife to sunder the doubting mind of birth and death. The handle of this knife is in one's own hand alone. You can't have anyone else wield it for you. To succeed, you must take hold of it yourself. You consent to take hold of it yourself only if you can abandon your life. If you cannot abandon your life, just keep to where your doubt remains unbroken for a while. Suddenly, you'll consent to abandon your life, and then you'll be done. Only then will you believe that when quiet, it is the same as when noisy. When noisy, it is the same as when quiet. When speaking, it is the same as when silent, and when silent, it is the same as when speaking. You won't have to ask anyone else, and naturally you won't accept the confusing talk of false teachers. During your daily activities, 24 hours a day, you shouldn't hold to birth and death and the Buddha path as existent, nor should you deny them as non-existent. Just contemplate this. A monk asked Joshu, "Does a dog have Buddha nature or not?" Joshu said, "No." Power. Old layman, your actions and behavior are in subtle accord with the path, but you've not been able to get that burst of power. If in your daily activities, responding to circumstances, you do not stray from your past footsteps, though you haven't got the burst of power, still, on the last day of your life, the King of Death will have to fold his hands and submit. How much more so if you reach the moment of realization? Though I haven't seen you in person, as I consider the things you do, I find that you strike a balance between great and small, without any excess or insufficiency. This is where you accord with the path. At this point, don't have any thoughts of affliction, and don't have any thoughts of the Buddha Dharma either. Both the Buddha Dharma and afflictions are extraneous matters. Yet, don't think of them as extraneous matters either. Just turn your light around and reflect back. Where does the one who entertains such thoughts come from? What shape does he have when acting? Once your tasks are taken care of according to your intentions, all thoroughly done without any lack of excess, at just such a time, whose power are you receiving? Meditate like this over the long days and months, and it'll be like a man learning archery. Naturally, he comes to hit the target. Sentient beings get inverted. They lose themselves and pursue objects. Addicted to their taste for petty desires, they willingly receive immeasurable suffering. Day after day, even before they've opened their eyes and gotten out of bed, while they're half awake and half asleep, their minds are already flying around in confusion, pursuing a torrent of vain thoughts. Although their good and bad doings are not yet manifest, before they've gotten out of bed, heaven and hell have already instantly formed within their hearts. And when their actions do come forth, they've already fallen into the storehouse mind. Didn't Buddha say that all the senses are manifestations of one's own mind? That the physical body and the organs are the appearances of one's own false thoughts? He established ways to show this, likening them to river currents, seeds, lamplight, wind, and clouds, changing and decaying from moment to moment, unsettled as monkeys, reveling in the filth of like flies, insatiable as flames fanned by the wind, turning like a water wheel from the habit energy of beginningless falsity, and so on. If you can understand thoroughly like this, then it's called the knowledge that there's neither self nor others. Heaven and hell are nowhere else but in the heart of the person while he's half awake and half asleep, before he's gotten out of bed. They don't come from the outside. When you are getting started but are not yet underway, when you are awakening but you're not yet awake, you must diligently reflect back on this, but without struggling with it as you reflect back. If you struggle, you waste power. Didn't the third ancestral teacher say so? When you try to stop motion to return to stillness, the stopping causes further commotion. As soon as you become aware of gradually conserving power in the midst of the afflictions of daily activities, this is where a person acquires power. This is how a person achieves Buddhahood and becomes an ancestral teacher. This is how a person changes hell into heaven. This is where a person sits in peace. And this is where a person gets out of birth and death. This is where a person becomes sovereign alone in the sovereign above the ancient emperors Yao and Shun. This is where a person rises the weary people from misery. And this is where a person brings prosperity to his adopted descendants. At this point, it's extraneous to speak of Buddhas and ancestral teachers, of mind and nature, of the original or the wondrous, of principle or phenomena, or of good or bad. Since even these things are extraneous, how much more alien to agree to do things in passion which the former sages censored. If you don't even consent to do good, how can you consent to do what is not good? If you can believe in these words, this is what Young Cha meant when he said, walking is also meditation, sitting is also meditation, speaking or silent, moving or still, the body is at rest. These are not empty words. Please act according to them, without ever changing. Then, although you have not yet witnessed the scenery of your own fundamental state fully, though you have not yet seen your original face clearly, what is raw will become ripe, and what is stale will become fresh. Be sure to remember, where you save power is where you gain power. Every time I say this to people, it always seems that I've said it over and over. Most take it lightly, and won't consent to make it their task. You should try to work like this for only 10 days or so. Then you'll see for yourself whether you're saving power or not saving power, whether you are gaining power or not gaining power. You'll be like someone who drinks water and knows for himself whether it's cold or hot. You cannot tell another person about it. You cannot show it to anyone. An ancient worthy said, when you speak of realization, you cannot show it to others. When you speak of truth, you cannot do it without realization. Only if you have realized and attained and believed and awakened to that, which one must realize and attain and believe and awaken to for himself, then do you reach tacit accord. If one has not realized and attained and believed and awakened, not only will he have no faith for himself, but he will also not believe that anyone else has attained this realm. Old layman, by nature you're near to the path. Your present determined actions and conduct do not need any change. In comparison with other people, you've already gotten 9,999 parts out of 10,000. You just lack that final burst of power. Gentlemen of affairs who study the path often understand rationally without getting to the reality. Without discussion and thought, they are at a loss. With no place to put their hands and feet, they won't believe that there is no place to put one's hands and feet is really a good situation. They just want to get there in their minds by thinking, and in their mouths to understand by talking. They scarcely realize they've already gone wrong. Buddha said, the Tathagata uses all sorts of similes to explain all kinds of things, but there is no simile that can explain this Dharma. Why? Because the road of intellectual knowledge is cut off. The Dharma is inconceivable. Truly we know that thought and discrimination obstruct the path. If you can cut off before and after, then the road of intellectual knowledge will be cut off by itself. If you can cut off the road of intellectual knowledge, then talk of all kinds of things is all this Dharma. Once this Dharma is clear, then this very clarity is the state of inconceivable great liberation. This state itself is impossible to conceive. Since the state of inconceivable, all similes are also inconceivable. Since the state of inconceivable, all similes are also inconceivable. I read it right, it just doesn't sound right. And all kinds of things are also inconceivable. And this inconceivability itself is also inconceivable. These words, inconceivable. And its inapplicability is also inconceivable. Pushing on like this, ever more exhaustively, whether it's things or the Dharma, similes or states, they're like a circle with no starting point, no beginning and no end. They're all inconceivable Dharma. Thus it is said that the abode of the Bodhisattvas is inconceivable, but therein thought is inexhaustible. When you've entered this inconceivability, thought and no thought are both quiescent and extinct. Yet you should not abide in quiescent extinction, for if you do, you are being absorbed by the experience of the Dharma realm. And there's a footnote here we'll get to. In the teachings, this is called affliction by the dust of the Dharmas. Only when you have annihilated the experiences of the Dharma realm and all sorts of wonders are cleared away all at once, should you look at such sayings. Okay, we've totally lost our concentration. Let's go ahead and do the footnote. My gosh, you're so strict. Footnote says, concerning the experience of the Dharma realm, in perfect enlightened, quiescent extinction and universal awareness are not two. In realizing it, that there's no gain or loss, no grasping or abandoning, one who realizes it is neither acting nor stopping. Since there's neither subject nor object in this realization, ultimately, there's no realization and no realizer. Both birth and death and nirvana are like yesterday's dreams, but clinging to the Dharma is hard to wipe out. Those who cannot eliminate it are called people who have fallen at the peak. They are afflicted by the dust of the Dharma. So even perfect realization of nirvana is still an egotistical view. So, he says, yet you should not abide in quiescent extinction, for if you do, you are being absorbed by the experience of the Dharma realm. In the teachings, this is called affliction by the dusts of Dharma. Only when you have annihilated the experiences of the Dharma realm and all sorts of wonders are cleared away at once, should you look at such sayings as, what is the meaning of the coming from the west? The cypress tree in the garden. What is Buddha? 3 pounds of hemp. Or a dried piece of shit. A dog has no Buddha nature. Who does not keep company with the myriad things? Swallow the water of the West River in one gulp and I will tell you. Where do all the Buddhas appear? Eastern Mountain walks on water. Then suddenly you can penetrate at a single phrase. Only when it is called turning to the Dharma realm without experience. Only then is it called turning to the Dharma realm without experience. Intéressant. Intéressant. When you see it as it really is, practice according to reality and act according to reality. And then you can manifest the Jewel King's realm on the tip of a hair and turn the wheel of the great Dharma while sitting within an atom of dust. When creating all things or destroying all things is entirely up to oneself. Like a strong man flexing his arm, you do not depend on the strength of others. Like a lion strolling along, you won't seek companions. When all sorts of states of surpassing wonder appear before you, you won't marvel at them. When all sorts of states of evil deeds appear before you, you won't fear them. In the conduct of your daily activities, you will be abandoned and expansive, free and independent wherever you go. Only if you arrive at this stage can you say that there is no heaven or hell, and such things. Young Chu said, "There are neither humans nor Buddhas. The universe is like a bubble in the ocean. All the sages are like flashes of lightning." If he hadn't gotten to this stage, how could Young Chu have said this? But with these words, those who misunderstand are many. Without penetrating to the source, you will only produce verbal understanding and say that everything is non-existent, denying cause and effect, considering the teaching expounded by all the Buddhas and the ancestral teachers as false and empty, saying they deceive and confuse people. If this disease is not removed, then you're confused and reckless, inviting calamity, Buddha said. False and fickle minds multiply their various clever views. If they don't apply existence, then they apply non-existence. If they don't apply these two, then they try to figure it out somewhere between existence and non-existence. If they try to see through this disease, they're sure to go wrong on neither existence nor non-existence. Thus, the former sages took pains to admonish us, to have us detach from the four phrases and cut off their 100 negations, to make a clean break directly, think no more of before and after, and cut off the heads of the 1,000 sages. The four phrases, it exists, it does not exist, it neither exists nor doesn't exist, and what it both exists and doesn't exist. Having penetrated these four phrases, when I see somebody saying that all things really exist, I go with it and talk existence, but without being obstructed by this. It really exists. When I see someone saying hold on, I'm having a realization. Holy fart. In this paragraph are the words of instruction that will help me understand how to serve my friend who is very, very, very schizophrenic. And I haven't been able to communicate with her because I'm feeling, and I'm trying to break through that. I have not penetrated these four phrases at all. Well, not at all, but Okay, alright. So let me go back to his instruction and pay real close attention now. Having penetrated these four phrases, when I see someone saying that all things really exist, I go along with it and talk existence, but without being obstructed by this. It really exists. When I see someone saying that all things are really non-existent, I go along with it and talk non-existence, but not the non-existence of the world is totally empty. But not the non-existence of the world is totally empty. When I see someone say that all things both exist and don't exist, I go along with it and talk both existence and non-existence, but there is no sophistry. When I see someone say that all things neither exist nor don't exist, I go along with it and talk neither existence nor non-existence, but this is no contradiction. It's this that Vilmakutri said, when the 6 outsiders fall, you fall along with them. Get this one short. Last one. Feeling and affliction. I take it your 5th son is not recovering from his illness? You had thought that in this realm, the feeling between a father and a son, the flow of affection over 1,000 lives and 100 ages would be impossible? In the world of the 5 corruptions, all is empty and false. The corruption of an age, the corruptions of the prevalent false views and afflictions, and the consequent corruption of sentient beings and the shortening of the lifespan. All are empty and false. There's not one that's genuinely real. I ask you to contemplate this constantly, whether you're walking, standing, sitting, or laying down. Then gradually over time, your feelings will be worn away. Nevertheless, it is precisely when afflicted that you should carefully investigate and inquire where the affliction arises from. If you cannot get to the bottom of its origination, then where does the one who's afflicted right now come from? Right when you're afflicted, is it existent or non-existent, empty or real? Keep investigating until your mind has nowhere to go. If you want to think, then think. If you want to cry, then cry. Just keep on crying and thinking. When you can arouse yourself to the point where the habit energy of love and affliction within the storehouse consciousness is exhausted, then naturally it is like water being turned to water, giving back your original being, without affliction, without thoughts, without sorrow or joy. Having entered the world, leave the world completely. Then worldly things are Buddha Dharma, and the Buddha Dharma is worldly things. Father and son are one by nature, and there is such a thing as a father who is not troubled when his son dies, or who does not think about him, or a son who isn't troubled when his father dies, and who doesn't think about him. Oh, wait, let me reread that, because I read that I wasn't expecting a question mark at the end. Alright, hold on. Father and son are one by nature. Is there such a thing as a father who is not troubled when his son dies and who doesn't think of him? Or a son who isn't troubled when his father dies and doesn't think of him? If you try to suppress such sentiments forcibly, not daring to cry or think about it, then this is deliberately going against the natural pattern, denying your inherent nature. It's like raising a sound to stop an echo, or pouring on oil to put out a fire, right when you're afflicted. It's not at all something alien, and you shouldn't think of it as alien. Yung Cho said, the real nature of ignorance is enlightenment. The empty body of illusionary transformation is the body of reality. These words are genuine and true, not lies or falsehood. If you could see completely like this, you couldn't think or be afflicted even if you wanted to. Contemplating like this is called correct contemplation. Any other contemplation is called incorrect. Actually, it's before correct and incorrect are separated that you should apply effort. This is the truth as I have determined it. Don't talk of it in front of people who have no wisdom. That's all for now.